What is up, YouTube? Salty Texas back with another resin project, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a project plus a new epoxy review. This is, I believe it's pronounced Famowood Glaze Coat Epoxy. It's a 1-to-1 epoxy. You can pick this stuff at Home Depot, Lowe's. You can even get smaller batches of it at Walmart. And I used to mess with this epoxy when I very first got into woodworking and turning stuff on the lathe. This is the stuff that I would use, and I didn't know anything about pressure pots or how epoxy worked. And I decided, you know what, since I got a little bit more experience underneath my belt, I thought, you know, what fun way to do a project and to, you know, pick some of this up and basically just do a project and see how it drives on the lathe. It's a 1-to-1 epoxy, comes in these big bottles, has measuring labels on the side of it. Decided to put some ink dye in it. It's just this cool little translucent Slimer green color. Mixed it all up, put it in the pressure pot, and it casted really well. You can see how clear it is right there. A little bit of sticking on the bottom, but that's just mostly from having to mix the bottom. So it looks really good. Put a piece of pine on the top, put the faceplate on, and we're just going to give this a turn on the lathe and just see kind of what we get out of it. And for the most part, this epoxy works really, really well. It drives a little bit different once you start to turn it on the lathe, which I found out. So when I would first use this epoxy, before I knew how a pressure pot worked, I would get nothing but glass shards, very unevenness when I would use it, very difficult epoxy to work with. But now that I know a little bit more about epoxy, I know about temperature control, pressure pots, it's a good epoxy. And it's, you know, mostly designed for tabletops, or that's how it's, you know, at least advertised. There's a little bit of chipping that occurred there. Had a little bit of problem initially with that, and there will be a little bit more problem a little bit later in the project, but for the most part it drives really well, very smooth, got good clean shavings off of them. The only thing that I will say was something that I did not like are the shavings tend to bundle up in these small little nests. Usually when I use either Total Boat or East Coast resin, don't usually get that, but for some reason on this particular project, the shavings for this come off in these giant clumps, and I will say they come off a lot stronger. Like, you get a lot of entanglement, LOL, if you're following what happened to Will Smith, entanglement. Probably the wrong word for this, but it gets tangled up in these small little bird nests. Not that you won't get that with other epoxy, but I feel like the bird nest in this particular project were a little bit more like bunched up, and you can see how much it stuck to my t-shirt there, or my hoodie. Usually when shavings would get on me, they just kind of fall off, but this stuff definitely sticks and bundles and clumps together. That's pretty much the only real negative of this epoxy. But it drove really well on the lathe, had a little bit of chipping, but that was user error from my part. Is if you've watched the channel for any amount of time, you know that I have a bit of a problem when I'm using the round carbide tool. So here we are, got everything smoothed out, everything's kind of the shape that I want it, and now all we're doing is turning down that top tannin part so we can actually start the gouging process of it. And I knew initially that I had some problems with the round carbide tool, so I just took the flat skew and just went ahead and just got everything nice and even. There was some wobble to the bowl, so I just like, screw that. The flat skew took care of everything. So everything's nice and even, took off that top tannin part, made the mortise, all that other good stuff, and now we begin the gouging part. Initially, when we first got into the bowl, these real shallow type of gouges, everything's going relatively well. Everything's driving really well. I'm not getting a lot of bunching, but I've noticed, like I said, once I got a lot deeper into the actual bowl or the cup itself, the shavings would bundle deep into the bowl, and right at the tip where I would start gouging, it would bunch up and I'd get some chatter and I'd get a lot of resistance. But I would say overall it's a really good product. If you don't have any other choice, you can absolutely use this for bowl projects, and I'm sure people have, and people are a little bit more experienced than me. But overall, you know, this is what I didn't like. See where it's clumping on the tip of the tool there instead of just shooting out of the bowl? That I had a particular problem with. But for the most part, it can be used, and it's not a horrible product. It looks crystal clear once we got everything shaved up and polished. It's just that clumping at the tip of the chisel that was my problem, and I don't experience that with Total Boat or East Coast resin. But again, like I said, it's a pretty good product. You absolutely can use it for bowl turning or cup turning. It doesn't have to be just used for a strictly tabletop application. But overall, really happy with the way that this actual resin turned out. Now that I have a little bit more experience, I have a pressure pot. I know the importance of temperature and mixing appropriately. It's a great resin. If you go back and watch some of my other early projects, man, they look like absolute shit. And this one actually turned out really well. We went from our typical 340 sanding all the way up to the micro mesh. As you see here, check out that transition. Boom. Nice, cool, glossy type of finish. Looks crystal clear. Wet sanded. Absolutely love the way this turned out. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Now we're just hitting it with that wood wax that I love so damn much. But overall, great product. Can't say enough good stuff about it. Is it on? I would say it's probably on the bottom tier of stuff I would use. They do sell this in gallon groupings, but for the most part, I would say it would go Total Boat, East Coast resin, and then if you had no other choice and you were in a pinch, you could totally pick this up. So hope you guys enjoyed the project. Here it is, final crystal green bowl. I enjoyed doing it, enjoyed doing the review. If you guys have some other comments or some other things, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next project. Peace! Okay, so the project is done, and you know what? It casts very clear. It's translucent, clear, nothing Total Boat or East Coast resin wouldn't do. Did have some problems driving it though. Like when you're gouging it out, and obviously I probably did it over the commentary, it would batch and like the shavings were really thick and it was really difficult to kind of gouge it out. That's why there's so much epoxy that hasn't been gouged out yet, because it was such a pain in the ass trying to do that. So overall, could you use it for bowl casting? Yeah, you probably could. Is it easy to work with? I think once you do, I think the outer portion of it, a lot better. Even though we did have some chipping with it, but I would say overall, yeah, you can use it if you're in a pinch, but the product's not bad. It's just not my favorite. So I'll put it that way. Might do another project with it, see how it kind of goes. But overall, yeah, you could use it. Crystal clear. Really like the way it looks with this translucent Slimer green looking color. But hope you like the project. Hope you got something out of it. You can pick it up at Lowe's or Home Depot. They even sell it at Walmart. You can get a smaller batch. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was informative. Overall, yeah, you could. So don't forget to subscribe. I'll check you guys out in the next project. And I hope you guys are all doing well. Peace.